Everybody saw things. Cheryl, how y'all doing? It's the weekend, and basically, I'm here to do a review and a recap of our favorite, our favorite show. It's the Greenleaf. The Greenleaf family is back, and we are so happy. I love this program. I can't wait to get a hold of and see Queen Sugar's Queen Sugar, which is basically right around the corner coming down the pipe. But this first episode, which basically is called the first day, and which is the final season. So we have season 5, guys, season 5. And I kind of think like a lot of people are kind of upset because they only did like five series, like 5 years. And I kind of think for 5 years, it's like in some sense, I want to see them to see exactly what's going to happen to Zora, her cousin. You know, I want to see what's going to happen with Charity and whether or not if she, succeed to what she's trying to accomplish. So in some sense, I'm kind of sad because it does leave a room. I mean, the way things are going does leave a room that they could basically really do a really nice kind of story around Charity because there's still a lot going on with her and of her and her gay ex-husband. So there's a lot they can do with it, and then with the fact that she and Phil basically found each other. I think Phil really does like Charity, due to the fact that he is being used by Bob, due to the fact that he has been writing all of the sermons that Bob has basically been doing at H&H. I guess that's H&H. And so it's for it to be um, the final season. I guess I can understand it. They want to quit at a good peak. And so we start off with, I mean, Grace and the Bishop. Well, Grace and the Bishop has met up with each other, and they're at the church, and they're inside of the church, and basically they're just looking at all how huge this church is. The church is very, very huge. It is. I wouldn't say it's a mega church, but I would say it's a mini mega church. And so the bishop and Grace basically, they standing there looking, looking at and reminiscing as to, in the olden days. And so they go outside and they look at how the movers basically moving their stuff. It's like they have no, the movers don't really care. And it's like the church has been, and the whole Greenleaf have been basically evicted out of their own church. They basically lost everything due to the corruption and the crookedness going on within the church with Connie, and the fact that she got the board to basically agree to this emerge that was supposed to be with H&H in Calverton, and come to find out that this is not what they want to do. So a lot of crap went on with that. And, but the bishop seems that he's, he's basically doing, okay with it. He just, he's just really ready for a new beginning. And so while Grace and the bishop is basically, looking at all of the stuff, and everything, and what really tugged on him is when they took this huge cross, and he saw the huge cross basically going in, and he just looked at as to how basically they, were really handling Calverton and the Greenleaf family. And so while they're dealing with that, we have to look at Jacob and Carissa. Now we know that Jacob and Carissa basically has always had some ups and downs, especially Jacob. Jacob, he was basically creeping throughout the beginning from, season 1, and I think he creeped all the way up into maybe 3. He almost creeped with what's that bishop's name? I can't think of it right now, but he was getting ready to creep with another person. And although Jacob does have, his good parts about him, but the mere fact of the matter is that he was highly upset due to the fact that he found out that his wife had basically stepped out on him. So he was upset, threw all the stuff over to get out. But I'm thinking, Jacob, Carissa has really put up with a lot of stuff, and she stepped out on you once. I believe it was once. But although I think she kind of had eyes for someone else, but she really didn't step out. And the only reason why she really stepped out is because this white man, I don't know what's his name, but part of the church, part of H&H or H&M or whatever, it gave her some attention. It gave her, what she was basically seeking. And therefore she fell into the trap. But like Jacob said, even though he was creeping and everything, he did not bring home any STDs. Now that part right there, not to say that he was right by what he's doing, but not to say that he didn't bring home any venereal diseases. And so that tells me Jacob, as far as Jacob was concerned, he did use protection. Maybe sometimes and maybe not so many times, because as we go on through the story, we find out some stuff which is basically kind of questionable. And so he was upset with that. And rightfully so. If you're going to creep, at least try to, protect yourself. Not to say, I'm not saying go ahead and do it, but if you're going to do it, put a train, or what they say, put a glove on it, or put a coat on it, or whatever. Oh, or whatever, right? So we go on and we see that Carissa is basically has gotten hold of a deed, which is, I think it's a deed or a will, which talks about the how the Greenleafs was able to get the mansion that they're basically living in. Apparently, and I'm going to say allegedly, the person who owned that mansion, they think that the bishop and Lady may had something to do with it. And so this is the lease or the deed or, the will that Carissa is basically holding over Jacob's head. And I never did really was feeling Carissa, but Carissa to me has always been kind of money. I don't want to say money greedy or money hungry, or she always wanted power, and she always thirsted for power. And so that's one reason why somewhat how she kind of hooked up with some one person at the H&M, because of the position that this person held. So I think that's one main reason how she was able to get mixed up and all combobulated. And but he did supply her with, I guess, a deed, and because she basically signed over, I think Jacob and her signed over half of the church or something. I really don't, I can't remember. But anyway, that's how Carissa wind up finding out about this will. And so, we go on, and then Carissa tells Jacob that she wants a divorce, or they want a divorce, and she wanted to be, set with this divorce. She wanted to make sure that Jacob set her up for life. And so we go on while we're dealing with that. Um, Aaron, Grace's brother, that's strange. We find out that Grace has a brother from a not from a different mother, but the same father. But we go on and we find that Aaron is basically over there giving some advice to Grace. It's basically, he went to see Grace and AJ about the incident of last year. We left out last year. We find out that AJ has been stealing prescription drugs and pills and things like that. And so Aaron went over there to let Grace and them know exactly what was going on. And at that, they caught, or I think they might have caught the gentleman who somewhat kind of sort of looked like AJ. And they found Aaron told Grace that this gentleman was caught up in, I guess, some type of gang related, some kind of shootout, and so he basically lost his life. Now, you remember, this young fellow was the young fellow that Grace basically saw at the gravesite of Faith while she was praying. Uh, as to what's going on with her son, and she's really complex to the fact that her and her son is not really gelling together, and she's kind of sort of pulling her, she doesn't know her last ends with, she's AJ is just one of those kids that due to the fact that we find out who his real mother is. But me personally I'm thinking that the gentleman at the gravesite, I'm thinking that there may be some identity theft basically going on. I'm not quite sure, but I'm sure we'll probably find out as the season go on. And so I also noticed that when Grace uh, did meet this young fella at the graveyard, he said something very poignant. And Grace, I forgot exactly what it was, but Grace, kept it to heart. And so while Aaron was basically telling AJ and her that you don't have to worry about it. AJ doesn't have to worry about, being locked up, because he was going to go and turn himself in, and that the gentleman is dead, so there's nothing to be worried about it. But AJ he's still not satisfied with the outcome. And so while we're dealing with the outcome, we see that let's see. we see basically Charity and Phil basically Charity is actually sitting outside getting ready to present herself as being, I guess, the third bishop. No, not the bishop, but the pastor, the pastor, as far as her working with H&M and as far as her working with Phil. And so, really, Charity is really, to me, Charity is, I'm not quite sure. I can't really think where Charity is. Charity to me still seems like she's very, very desperate as far as being needed, because the things that she basically says to, Phil. And then prior before that, we know that Phil basically proposed to Charity. And so Charity was all in it and everything. And she's basically, wiping it all in her family face and things like that. But later on down the road, it backfired on Charity. Gotta watch what you say or how you treat people. And so we go on and we find out that we go on and we find out that um Phil later on, after he had basically, him and Charity kind of, broke it in, as far as consummating the relationship and consummating the relationship that they had for each other, but turned out that that's not going to work out, especially for Charity. So we go on and we find out that later on, Phil has a basically a meeting with Bob, and Bob he's kind of an underthroat, cutthroat kind of person. And then we know also that Phil is the person who's basically have been writing the sermons for Bob. So Bob really haven't really been writing his own sermons. Basically, Phil has basically been writing these sermons. And now we know that Phil has been with Bob with this organization at H&H for well over 20 years. And so we find out that Bob is not going to give the position to Phil. He basically had called Lady May and wanting Lady May to basically meet him at the office to talk about the future of H&M. Meanwhile, we see the two millionaires of the church. I think it's two, no, it's three of them, and that was Misty and Clara or Sarah. I'm not quite sure, but I know the other one was Misty. Just my notes, Misty, and so Misty and them were uh, telling the bishop that they weren't really, basically satisfied due to the fact that they will not have a church, that they are going to tear down Calverton, and that they're going to rebuild H&H. And while they're rebuilding the H&H, they're basically going to be meeting at a gym. And so they're basically talking to the bishop about the fact that they're not satisfied as to the outcome. Now, while the bishop is basically talking to them, we see that Grace has, all of a sudden pops up at Darius' office. So we know that last year, him and her basically kind of broke up with each other. So he wasn't too satisfied, or he wasn't happy that she popped up at his office unexpected. And so, but the reason why she basically popped up is that the fact that her brother Aaron had basically had a picture of the gentleman who is suspect of being responsible for, breaking in these drugstores and stuff. And prior before that, Grace had met the young guy at Faith's grave site. And so Grace basically took the picture and took it to Darius and wanting him to basically do some investigation and to find out some more information on the gentleman that has basically lost his life, but they somewhat, AJ and this young boy look alike. So we don't know his name. We don't know his name, or at least I didn't hear his name. But we want to find out exactly who he is and his background. So Darius has said that he would basically go ahead and, do this information. Now, meanwhile, Darius and Grace, I think that Darius and Grace are thinking that they might do a on again, off again, or maybe one of those, on again, off again kind of rendezvous, if you know what I mean. And so, booty check or whatever, you know what I mean. Late night roaming. Late night roaming. And so we go on, and then while Darius is basically dealing with that, we have Jacob basically dealing with this. I think it's just the will that Carissa basically threw in his face and using it as a hostage towards Jacob and threatening Jacob if she doesn't get the right type of divorce, that she was going to use that. And so we see that Jacob basically had talked to Aaron, and Aaron tells him that, so far, the will is the way it is, but if they must, in order for it to be substantial, he's going to have to find out a little bit more about this to find out whether or not if there is another will or anything like that. Because with just one of the will, basically, Carissa basically has him basically in a chokehold as far as threatening him and to uh, expose the family as to how they got that house. And so we go on and we find out, which is very, very interesting. We find out that Jacob has disguised when he was creeping. He basically had disguised uh, the young lady who he was basically having the affair with. So we go on and we see the young lady who he had the affair with, and we see that she is I'm not even what not good with names today, but anyway, we go on and we find out that this young lady has a child, because when Jacob came through, she, was a little bit apprehensive towards him, a little bit negative towards him, a little bit not, not so happy when she found out that Jacob only wanted to come and to get some information about his uncle. And so we find out that she has a little girl, and Jacob, the look on Jacob's face is like, oh shit, who is this baby mine? And so he asked the question and kind of off on it, and she said, no, the baby is not yours. But I personally think that you're lying. She lying. The baby is his. She just didn't tell him. But the baby, I'm sure, as we go along in the series, go along in the program, we're gonna find out some more stuff. And so we go on, and we see that the bishop and Lady May has basically gotten together, and Bishop is basically telling Lady May that he appreciates that the fact that he learned a lot while when she was doing her sermon, I think the Women of the Month or whatever, and he watched her as to how she was able to control the conference and everything, and he was basically pretty uh, uh, um, pretty, happy that the fact that she was able to do that, and that he realized that he's still in love with his wife, and that both of them are still in love with each other, and that they realize that they have basically lost the church. But the bishop told Lady Mae that he wanted to marry her, and the reason why he wanted to marry her is because now that they don't have Calverton, this is a good way for them to restart all over again. In other words, reboot and restart all over again. But he said before they basically can do that, he wanted to marry her. And so she agreed to marry her, and then she just wanted to be just him, her, and the justice of the peace. But the bishop wanted to include the whole family, which is a significance. I can understand why he did that. A significance of family and togetherness with the family. And so, while they're dealing with that, Grace has basically was with AJ and was trying to basically get AJ to, let's go out, let's have dinner with, the family, his sister, her, and all of them could be a big, big family. And AJ, he's looking, complex. He doesn't know which way is up all the while. He's still thinking about the guy that got killed over the fact that I think that this is a identity theft over there. I could be wrong, but I think it's an identity theft. And so while AJ is definitely not sure about where he's with himself, um, Grace gets a call from Darius. Darius tells Grace to basically come up to the office immediately. So Grace basically go to the office and find out that Bob is up to some good old corruption stuff. And what that good old corruption stuff is that he's basically bought a house within the county. He's basically stayed in the house. He hasn't really been there, but he's basically stayed in the house. And the one reason why, he was so gun ho and trying to uh, basically get the church is because he's trying to run a crooked campaign. He's trying to be a Republican senator. And if that would look good in his favor, because if he runs, then he will have a diversity church. And so Grace and Darius was able to find out this information because Darius basically did an interview with Bob, and this is how he basically found out some information as to why, they want to tear down the church. So in the meantime, while Grace is in the company of Darius, she basically gets a call from Papa. Papa has alerted them that they are getting married again. Her and her mother, they're going to get married again. And so the family comes together. Everybody basically come together. But we also find out that Charity goes to Phil's house, and we see that Phil is basically breaking down everything, taking down all the pictures of Charity, and he really does love her. He really does love her. So, but Charity comes back to, give her little two cents as to what she feels and how she feels about her. And then this is when Phil tells Charity that he really does love her, And the only reason why he is going to marry, I'm going to say marry Becky, is because Bob is forcing his hand. If he doesn't marry the daughter, he wouldn't be able to get what he's trying to be, I guess, the head pastor of his own church. So he had to, pawn something. He had to make an agreement. So he pawned charity to get his church. And so we go on and we see that Charity is dealing with that. In the meantime, uh, Lady May and the bishop has called the whole entire family, and everybody is getting ready to come over and witness their mother and grandpa and grandma to get married again. So everybody shows up at the house. Everybody's happy due to the fact that they're getting married again. Charity was a little bit apprehensive because she didn't think that the family wanted her there, especially her mother, due to the fact that she sold the family down the river. Um, but the bishop's, this is my daughter, and I want you at want you at the remarrying of your mother. And so everybody getting ready to watch their mother, father getting married again. Everybody shows up. Um, but one person was left out of the loop, and that was AJ. And so Grace goes in to see where AJ is, and then AJ is nowhere to be found. So Grace sees that AJ's, bags and everything is still in the house. And so she goes towards the bathroom, and then she started calling AJ's name, hollering, and then she breaks in. And then this is when Grace basically finds AJ on the floor with, he has cut his wrist and basically committed suicide. And basically Grace is basically on the floor hollering and screaming as to why did you do this? And that is a legitimate question. A legitimate question. A legitimate question as to AJ. Why did you kill yourself? Why? Why did you do it? Legitimate question is Charity. Why did you sell your family up the river just to, preach again, as you said, right? Legitimate questions. And legitimate question is Carissa. Do you think that simply because you dangling a will over Jacob that's gonna get you what you want? I don't think so. I think you're gonna wind up in hot water. But that's just me. And then what's going on with Jacob? Jacob, what's going on with you? Now, the fact that you threw Carissa out, told her to get out, and Carissa ain't going nowhere, and then you find out that the woman who you were sleeping with for maybe 2, 3 years, basically, she says that the baby is not yours, but I think the baby is yours because you were looking at her side eye. And I can understand. I would have been looking at her side eye too. Now, I don't talk too much um about the young girls, about Zara and her cousin. It seems that Zara and them always liking the same young men. But I also think that Zara basically is a bisexual young girl. We're not quite sure, but I kind of think she might be a bisexual woman. With her cousin, she like to do a little bit of lying now. She used to be the little, the little roly poly, the little I'm all holy than thou little girl. Although she ain't, she's doing a little bit of lying along the way. So we don't know. But this was an excellent episode to start off with. the first day, and actually this was the first day. Now, click subscribe, comment, and come on back next Tuesday and see exactly what I'm going to be talking about. Now, like I said, AJ, why did you do it? And Carissa, it ain't going to work. Charity, I think you're going to wind up crying some more. But until the next time, this is All Things Cheryl. And remember, love is for everyone. And right now, we are still in the corona. So protect yourself, wash your hands, do everything that you're supposed to do. And this is going on a month, and protesting is still going on through a lot of unjust that has been happening throughout the history when it comes to Black lives. Now, some of you all want to know, well, do my life matter? And I'm going to tell you, all life matter, but especially pay attention to Black lives that is really, and that should matter. Till the next time, take care and enjoy the weekend.